Good morning, everybody. As I'm shifting my stuff over here, I hope everyone is having an awesome Saturday. It's been a weird week. We've had unseasonably cool temperatures this week. Not complaining about it. Riley got to have an excellent day at daycare yesterday because they were able to go outside and enjoy the weather, unlike extensive heat that would have happened a little while ago. So it's been a great week. Also, there's been a couple minor changes to my setup. I don't know who has noticed yet, but I don't have, as my friend Steven, who's already in the chat, has the devil eyes. I don't have little round things sitting in my glasses anymore because I managed to get a couple side lights. So I'm lit a little bit differently. I also have my microphone set up a little differently. So you guys are my guinea pigs today to let me know if sewing is working with this, because I've not used this microphone for sewing. So we got to see what is going on with my lighting and microphone and everything set up. So you'll have to let me know if there's, any excess noise, any excess lighting, or you can't see me or hear me. Please do let me know, whether it be in the chat live here, or if there is a, what is that word? Anybody on the replay who has any feedback, let me know in the comments below. In the chat, firsties was my friend Julie, who says, good morning, Russ and friends. Then after that, we have a changed name in the chat. My friend Steven of the Idiot Quilter. Looks like he changed his name, and I think that's pretty cool. Then we have Candace. Good morning, y'all. Good morning, Colleen. Good morning, Jeannie E. Steve's like, if you can get rid of the fan, that is hilarious. Good morning, Diana. And then now Steven typed it correctly. If I could only get rid of the fan. Yeah, there is no getting rid of the fan. I don't care what anybody says. Fan stays. Good morning, Kathy, who says, good morning, everyone. So, yeah, it's been a good week. Next week's going to be a little bit better because I have a couple days off. But I managed to get some stuff done. I got the stuff cut for here, and I even got my sample block so I know how I'm pressing stuff. So what we are making, if I can grab it, are these blocks. This is block B in the, what is it called? Star Power graduation quilts that I'm making. So there's a block A, which is a star block. Block B is a 9-patch. And I am making the 9 patches because I haven't cut any of the stuff, the triangles, out of those strip tubes that I made last week. So without triangles, I can't make the stars. So I said, let me do block B. Excuse me. Candace asks, what's in the cup, Russ? Well, it's not alcohol. It's Pepsi with a couple shots of vanilla in it from QT. So with my mic, oops, I shouldn't be tapping that. That caused everything to go all red. With my new microphone set up, I don't have my trackball in an easy place. so that I can change my camera view easily. And it's mostly because I have all of my fabrics sitting here in my sewing machine area. So it's not like I can easily just, because I normally keep my mouse thing here. But yeah, I've got my whole sewing table occupied right now. And the way these 9 patches work is it uses 2 of the same fabrics for the top and bottom. Wait, I'll shut this off so I can show you guys here. So it's 2 of the same fabrics for the top and bottom. We have an accent fabric for the left and right. We have a big white square in the center. And then 4 white squares along the sides. So that is how these blocks will go together. And then now I gotta make sure I don't accidentally mix myself up, because I have everything piled up exactly how I'm going to need it in order to properly chain piece everything. Good morning, Dubraka. And good morning, Crystal. How you doing? Candace says, don't I know that I'm in Coca-Cola country? It's the best. Candace, as I have told everyone I know, there's something fundamentally wrong with a product that you have to put Jack or rum in to make it taste good. Nobody ever asks for a Jack and Pepsi because that's just nasty. It's really because Pepsi's already perfect as it is. So I know a little of the sewing machine is getting caught up in the microphone. I'm doing the best I can. There's no noise canceling on this, but my hope is it's probably more of an ASMR sewing machine sound than anything. So the way I'm going to do my first block, just so that you guys can see the whole process, I'm going to make 2 of them at the same time. So I've already put the fabrics through the first, for the first block, for one side of the first block, that is. And then I'm going to push my fabrics through for the first side of the second block. And I'm doing it this way because this is how I know that nothing is ever going to get mixed up. Because each block has to have 2 accent pieces, which is this pink. And each block has to have the same fabric line pieces. So as I'm calling it here, that's top and bottom. So if I do it this way, I know that I'm going to keep all of the fabrics together as appropriate. And I won't have to do any extra thinking as I am pulling the fabrics around, as long as I keep everything in my groups of 3. I won't need to think. And it also means that I can chain piece all of one side after I'm done with this first block, and then all I will have left is going to be these same smaller squares and accent pieces. So I won't have to go hunting through my pile of cut pieces to say which one is matching which. It also means that I don't have to say, like, divide up my fabric line pieces. And that's just going to make it so it's easier. There's less prone for a mistake. Because we know what happens when we make a mistake. Crystal says, no sewing today, but gonna have a grand time with some grands today. Two of our favorite things to do. That sounds awesome. I'm going to turn on my iron because I'm about to get to a pressing point. And that's the other thing is, you don't have to press until you have all of your pieces webbed together. Come on, let go, let go. And again, because they're in the proper piles, I don't have to think about any of this. Also, for the background squares, I got to make sure I put them in the right direction. Otherwise, you're sewing a right side to a wrong side. Good morning, Joydy, who says, good morning, Russ and Chatters. Steven says that he is switching to the TV upstairs, so probably won't be chatting. Walter is making brunch. Walter, what's for brunch? So when I have these sewn, like the rows are webbed together. And for this row, okay, I had to make sure it looked like one. White on white is the worst because it's hard to tell sometimes. And that's why I had to make sure if you put it against a black background, and I also know that there's a black light thing that you can do, it'll help you know if you have it right side out. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to press all of these to the colored fabric. So the top and bottom, I'm going to be pressing inwards. And then the left and right, I am going to be pressing outwards. And that's going to make everything nest. And we know how I'm OCD about nesting, so. I think that's one thing that I changed officially from the pattern was the pressing directions. Because I think the pressing directions are kind of iffy with the way that it has everything putting. But I went through it and I actually mapped everything out and said, how can I do this so that things will nest correctly, especially between blocks A and B. And that's what I found. And normally when I'm twisting my seams, I will trim this thread that's holding everything together. But in this case, my seam is going to be pressed to one side. I know, shocking, I'm not twisting seams. So it's not necessary for me to trim the web that's holding everything together. And then I will grab the other one off, and I'm going to do the same pressing. Duvraka says, Steven's videos of his trip were amazing. Yes, they were. Almost makes me want to go to the UK. It would be better if I can get work to pay for it because we have offices there, but you know, they cut all traffic on hold. Travel, that's the word, travel. I've been trying to get them to send me to, you know, London or Hong Kong. About 12 or 13 years ago, there was a opportunity for like a year commitment in Hong Kong. And I was like, I kind of am interested. Not that I would have known what to do with my pup and cats at the time, but I did not get selected for the opportunity. And then later, if I had gotten selected for the opportunity, I would have missed my grandmother's funeral. So, you know, little wins. Because I don't know how easily it would have been able to get back to the States from Hong Kong. But, you know, I am taking an international trip in like 9 weeks, I think the count is. So I'm going to have fun with that. And then the opposite side, because everything's already pressed, I don't have to do anything. Just line up and sew. And I will do this last one. And I'm just going to pull one off the machine so I can show you how it presses up. Come on. So everything in the 9 patch itself nests gorgeously. And then I'm going to press the star blocks in the correct orientation so that they will nest gorgeously. And I'll show you guys that nesting when I get the star blocks starting to make. And then these I'm going to press inward so that this seam goes inward and this seam goes inward, and that's what's going to make sure everything goes correctly. Because like I said, the way that my star blocks are going to be pressed, they're going to be pressed the opposite direction. And it's going to make sure everything goes as expected. And then I'll be able to twist the star blocks in any direction I need. And I can twist these blocks in the directions that they need. So right here we have, this is one fabric, this is the other fabric. So you see the accents are the same between the two blocks, and the fabrics are going to be different. I think there is 2 of each fabric block. And the really cool thing is the pattern that this fabric is called Coleus, because that's the plant that the pattern resembles. And the interesting thing about Coleus is when my sister was doing her associate's degree 600 million years ago at this point, it feels, I think it was during her associate's degree. It could have been during her high school science class, but either way, it was a science class. And they went to like a greenhouse or something. And the class project was to take a clipping from a plant and grow a plant from it. So my sister ended up taking a clipping from the Coleus plant, and she got it going and everything for her class project. And my grandmother was like, oh, that's a really cool plant. I want a clipping from it, and I want to start it myself. So she took a clipping from my sister's plant, which was a clipping, and she grew her own one. My sister's ended up dying. So every so often, my sister would go up to my grandmother and say, can you start me another plant? And my grandmother would start her another plant and everything. So it ended up being called the nanny plant because my grandmother, we all called her Nanny. And like it basically became her plant. And she took great care of it. When my grandmother passed away, my sister got the plant, and she made all of us grandkids a clipping of the plant, so we all have our own nanny plant. And mine's doing pretty good. Although we will see exactly how good it is when my sister comes to visit and starts threatening me that I'm not taking good enough care of all my plants. But I thought that that was a really cool nod when I was going through the fabrics, because I wasn't paying attention to every fabric that was in the line, and I was like going through it. I was like, this looks like the nanny plant. So my niece's graduation quilts, they both have nanny plants in it. Good morning, In Stitches with Jackie. How are you doing today? So like I said, I'm just going to go through and do all of one side stitching. If I wanted to, I can do all of the top and bottoms and then all of these midpoints all at the same time. But then I would have all kinds of stuff to line back up together again. And some of these fabrics look exactly like some of these other fabrics. So I was like, I'm just going to leave it so that I am being cautious as I do my sewing. And just grab the appropriate 2x2s and push them all through the machine. And it's just all about keeping my rhythm right. If I was smart, I would have lined everything up together last night. So I would have just had one pile of stuff. But nobody ever said I'm smart. And with this quilt that I'm doing, the sewing the strip tubes, which is what I did last week, is easy. Sewing these 9 patches is easy. When I get the strip tubes cut, sewing the star blocks is easy. It's just, cutting the half square triangles for the star blocks. That is the pain in the neck. And I think a lot of the pain in the neck is because it's 224, 236. It's a large number of half square triangles that I got to cut out. And cutting out half square triangles is not my favorite. But I have a feeling that's going to be what I will be doing between Thursday and Friday of this week, because I have those 2 days off. And as I was looking at my schedule of stuff, I'm like, it makes sense for me to cut the half square triangles on Thursday and Friday. It's going to take me most of the day, those 2 days, just to do it. And it only takes me most of the day because of how much effort I put into making sure everything stays lined up. And it's, 200 and something. But then I should be able to come in here next week and sew the star blocks together. And if I remember the schedule correctly, which is, still subject to change, next week on my friend Stephanie's channel, we should be finishing the dragon fruit block of the month that we did from Fat Quarter Shop. There was a group of us that are sewing it together, and we were I think we were all behind. So yeah, it was a lot of, we were all playing catch up, and Stephanie was out of town. So I think, from what I understand, either we're all caught up or we're all mostly caught up at this point in order to do it next week. Good morning, sweet granny, who says General Motors, Russ, and all quilters. Oh, wait, that's good morning, not General Motors. In Stitches with Jackie says that she is doing well and enjoying the sewing. What pattern am I working on? Got here late, and she's not a fan of half square triangles as well. So the pattern is called Star Power. It is from Cozy Quilt Designs. I chose this pattern because of a Donna Jordan from Jordan Fabrics video. It seemed a lot easier in her video because she only shows one block. And I'm like, if I had, mentally put it all together and said, oh, yeah, this is like 600 times that, I may not have chose this pattern for graduation quilts, but I still think it's gorgeous. It is definitely a college graduation quilt pattern, not a high school graduation quilt pattern, because I don't want to cut all of these half square triangles for a high school quilt. Now, it might be a good pattern for a baby quilt because you get a little bit of variety and stuff. You can, cut your strip tubes and start your half square triangles from a handful of them, and then make baby quilt after baby quilt from them, so that you have the variety. Because they tell you in the pattern, if you're doing a baby quilt, you might want to pick a few more fat quarters. It was like, if you pick a bunch of fat quarters and you have plans to make bunches of baby quilts, like, I don't know, there's an epidemic of babies or something, then you can do it that way. But I think this is a lot better as a queen or full-size quilt. I think the king feels a little bit too large, if I remember correctly, for the dimensions. The king is a 107 by 107, which means if you use 108 fabric, you basically don't have any room for the long arming. So you might as well use the 9 5/8 yards of backing and put it together their way. And in my opinion, pieced backings that are that big are very difficult. And good morning, Tasha Quilts. I saw you a minute ago. I apologize for taking a second to say hi. I did not want to lose my train of thought with the pattern and everything. Good morning, Greenland Quilter Carrie. And I'm saying Carrie because, you misspelled my name, so I'm going to misspell yours. And I know it's later, early, or something there. I totally forgive you. It's not the first time you've called me Rob. Probably won't be the last. The fabric lines that I'm working with is K Facet fabric. And I like it because both nieces are getting from... They're both K Facet lines. They're basically the same patterns, just different colors. So it means that they're getting matching quilts. But also, the white on white that I am using in the 9 patches for this quilt is the same white on white that I'm using for the star blocks in the other quilts, and vice versa. So the what's going to be the star patches in this is the 9 patches on that. So that makes them have that connection as well. And then the first inner border white on white is going to be the same as the white on white that I did for my sister and her besties quilts. So there's just all these connections with the graduation quilts that are all, same section of the family. But I swear I'm going to have to figure out a different... Well, I say I'm going to have to figure out a different graduation quilt, but if I rewrite the pattern like I'm planning to, and it comes out fine, then I won't have to do it. Tasha says, never lose a train of thought on her account. And then, Katie is saying autocorrect and everything. Yep, that is a problem with autocorrect. Now, I was in Zaxby's the other day, and when you go to place your order and stuff, when they first see you and everything, they ask for a name for the order. Sometimes I'm like, you want me to name my order? I mean, you guys already give them numbers and stuff like that. But this time I chose not to do the sarcastic, you give them numbers already. And I told her, my name's Russ. And she types in the computer, Rust, with a T. And I was like, you misspelled my name. I am not full of rust. I mean, when I move my arms and everything, I don't squeak or groan or anything like that. I'm doing it with a full smile and everything, so she knows I'm absolutely not serious and everything. And we have a good laugh about it. So, yeah, I'm mostly accustomed to my name getting butchered in some form or fashion. But at the same time, it's 4 freaking letters and it's easy. I know. Where our office used to be, before they moved us to Midtown, I went to Chick-fil-A downstairs way too much. Way too much. And we they got to know me. They knew what my order was and everything. Like they're creature of habit. So I have 2 just hilarious incidents, and I'm using incidents loosely because, again, no issues with it. One of them, they were calling out the name Bruce for me because for some reason somebody, busy food court, so they probably didn't hear me correctly, but somebody probably typed in Bruce in the computer when I said Russ. Busy food court, you hear things differently. I get it. So that one I found slightly giggly, but the other one, which I laughed hysterically about, was the gal who worked every morning. She ended up saying, "So how are you doing, Bill?" And I just look at her. I'm like, what do you mean, Bill? She thought my name was Bill for all these years for some reason. But I was just like, so we had a good joke about that, and I started calling her by a different name. So Katie is asking me that she has an off-topic question since I live in Georgia. What is your off-topic question? Good morning, Jen. How are you today? Mom and Pop Quilt Shop. Good morning, Laura Lynn, who says, hey, cool kids. I mean, the weather has been a little cooler here today, or this week, so yeah, I guess we are a little cool here. I am not complaining about 80-degree weather in August. Tasha says she had a boss that made her wear a name tag when she worked in a hardware store. And he called her Sasha and would just point to the name tag. That's hilarious. anytime that I had a work-related event, uh, and they made us put name tags on, and even half the time when it's not a work-related event, when it's a personal event or something, I will put my name tag upside down. And when people say it's upside down, I'm like, I can read my name fine. For Katie's question, I have no idea. I haven't had to search for one in many a moon. And I'm going to just say this one time. When I first moved into my first apartment here that had a washing machine hookup, I bought a Roper brand washer, which is the Whirlpool generic, and I think that used to be the Best Buy brand, generic brand, before they decided to go with whatever brand name that they're doing now. And I'm pretty sure I spent less than that, but again, that was like 600 years ago. And I dropped that sucker once, and it still worked fine. So, yeah, I don't know where to buy decent used ones outside of things like Facebook Marketplace, which is full of all kinds of other trash. So, yeah, Facebook Marketplace would be my thought if you're... And it might be better in smaller towns or something, but like out here, it's full of a lot of... And it's usually the people who are buying the stuff that are the scammers on Facebook Marketplace, not necessarily people posting stuff. But somebody might just get irritated of people and just stop selling stuff or something. I haven't touched Facebook Marketplace in years. Good morning, John from Guys Craft 2, who's going to be on with Katie later. That's kind of exciting. So now that we're mostly through the live, I've got to ask everybody, how has the audio been today? Is the sewing machine distracting, not distracting? Has the volume been good? Has the lighting been good? Just, doing a quick check-in just to make sure that what I've done is working out well. I'm almost through with... Wrong piece. With the first half. Tasha says, volume good, machine fine. The other thing that needs to be tested, and is going to get tested tomorrow, is how this works with Zoom. Because I know Zoom has some noise cancellation features. So I'll figure that out, because tomorrow is the next Sewing Shenanigans, which is a private Zoom that I host over here. It's free for everyone. There's no cost. There's no other requirements except that you have the ability to use Zoom, and you can join. We're great for new people or people who have joined several times before. and we just sew together on Zoom. We've enabled each other a few times, bought several things on it, and everything. So I'll be really excited to see how it comes together with the Zoom technology as opposed to just the OBS technology that I used to stream. So if you want to join that, I have sent links to anybody who is on my mailing list already. But the link is also in the video description box below here and on my video that I put out on Wednesday. Just to, if you're interested in joining. So it starts at 8:30 a.m. Eastern tomorrow, and it goes until about 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Translate to your own time zones, however that works. And I'd love to see you there. Did good volume, machine okay. All looks good to me. Volume, not a lot of background from the machine. Or volume good, not a lot of background from the machine. Very nice. Zoom has great noise canceling. Yes. This is not Zoom that I'm using to broadcast here. So all of this is the way that my camera, or not my camera, my microphone actually works. Because I have buttons on my microphone. One of them that says only do what's in front of me. One of them that says only do what's around. And this, I got to figure out what all the buttons do. But yeah. Tasha's saying, what time again? It starts at 8:30 a.m. Eastern tomorrow, Sunday, the 10th of August. And it concludes about 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Again, all of this is in the description below or in the email that I sent to the mailing list. If you're not on the mailing list and want to be, you can just shoot me an email, quiltmeetsworld@gmail.com. Again, that's in the description below too. I try to make it easy to, ping me if you need anything or want to give some feedback. I've gotten some really awesome feedback from some random viewers before. I've also gotten, unhelpful feedback at times, but I'm like, I'm working on it. It just takes time, and people think I have a lot more space than I do behind the camera. Because if you've seen like your news broadcasts or your like sitcom recordings and stuff where they have just a giant room and stuff behind where the cameras are set up, and what is that thing called? The studio lights, camera, action people. You would think that, there's a lot of space, and there are YouTube people who have a ton of space behind them and have an awesome setup. I have a wall behind these cameras, so like people have said, well, you can do this with your setup, and I'm like, no, I really can't. So it's just a lot of time finding certain technology items, like the lights that I have. You can see it here. This is one of my lights, and just finding something that would fit there, because a lot of people have the big giant, for lack of a better phrase, umbrella lights like you would have when we were kids on picture day. But I'm like, okay. Yeah. I'm like, something's not counting right, but yes, it is. I think. I hope it is, because if I'm off by one, it's going to be I'm going to have to do a lot of snipping to get everything lined back up. But I'm looking at my pile of squares, And I'm like, I'm almost out of these squares, which means I am halfway through the first pass of these units. Okay. Mom and Pop says floor tripods take up a lot of room. Yes, they do. And when you don't have a floor behind your desk, that's room you don't have. I had to find, basically, I think they're 3 or 4 inch circle bases for my light stands and my camera stands. So I had to find basically very small stands in order to fit on a table to make sure I still have the room to do my stuff. Tasha says, yeah, until you try to set up lighting and cameras, you don't really have any idea how hard it is. I mean, I knew how hard it was. I do work for a media company, so I have seen some of the behind the scenes stuff, which meant when I first opened up OBS for the first time, I was like, oh, this stuff makes sense to me because I have seen this. Colleen says the changes are good and no problem with the noise. And the reflection is gone. Yes, there's still a little reflection on the sides. I got to see if I can adjust the lights a little bit more, which I don't have much room to do that. As I'm showing, I can't bring this one up anymore because then it hits the TV. So I'd still have a little bit of reflection, but it's nowhere near as crazy as it was from the ring light that's in front of me, which would look like this because my camera is still on the ring light, just to avoid me having to move a whole bunch of stuff still. Because I still need to get one more stand. And then I can put the camera on that stand. And my setup will be just a little bit better than what it used to be. And that is just my goal, is every now and then make something a little bit better than it used to be. I am almost out of... Come on. There you go. And then you. And then the final one on the left-hand side. In Stitches with Jackie says she likes the setup that I have with showing what I have sewing and still being able to be in frame with everyone. That was one of the requirements that I had when I was like, if I'm going to bring a sewing cam in, I want to be able to have the whole picture-in-picture thing. Which I learned in the olden days, picture-in-picture was not as easy as it sounds. like, back in the news when they would have that little box in the top corner of almost like the headline or something that they were talking about, or maybe it was just a picture of part of the scene that they were talking about. That is not easy back in the day. And it's a lot easier now. But I wanted to make sure that I had the whole picture-in-picture set up because it keeps everybody in there together. I want to adjust my picture-in-picture just a little bit. I just haven't figured out how I want to have it adjusted. And Steven is asking, what is the brand for my microphone? I've sent you this information in the past. It is an MSI microphone. I'm cutting a ender. I have leftover binding that I'm never going to use on anything, so I can use that for my leaders and enders. But it's an MSI microphone. I don't know the exact. It's a GV something something something. I got on sale super cheap. And then I've got the boom stand, which is a good size boom stand. But yeah, all I'm going to do now is cut everything in groups of 3. And when I cut them in groups of 3, all I have to do is put a white square, an accent rectangle, and a white square. Oh, you didn't see all that. And I don't have to think. Everything is all together. So I'm going to do one real quick since I already have these pieces out. And then the rest I'm going to do offline. Because it's going to take me a handful of minutes to cut all of these that I have already put together apart. But I do like the microphone. Like I said, I've used this microphone for, it feels like a couple months now when I'm recording my weekly vlog. And that was one thing that I really liked, is I didn't have to project as hard when I was doing that. And then I bought the arm, and I just finally was able to get the arm installed this past week. I still need to adjust the arm a little bit because it feels a little close, but I'm also making sure that I'm just out of view of the camera. Yeah, just making sure that, I'm just out of view. I would really like it if I could have it above me, but I don't have anything to attach to up there right now. But at some point, it might get moved above at some point. Steven's asking if I got off of Amazon because I don't list anything called MSI. It was off of one of Amazon's subsidiaries called Woot.com. Woot initially, they were from Texas, but they were initially a site where they had one item every day, and they had it on sale until it sold out. And I bought way too much stuff from them. And then Amazon bought them a few years ago. When I say a few years ago, it's probably now more than I think. And they had it on there back then. I will find the exact model number and everything and see if I can come up with an Amazon link for you, Steven. I trust that you searched and they don't have anything MSI. Maybe it's region specific. Don't know. You did find one. Okay, then I'm not going to go hunt for you anymore. But I think I'm going to cut that here because, like I said, I got all of these that I need to cut. And, I mean, it's a long string. The other thing I need to do is see what these new lights are doing with the color balancing of my light. But I can't remember what colors were really, really bad when it came to the camera. So I got to go back and find some of those videos and see what bled to, like, what. I know there's some purples that were a little off. This is still off in color, so it did not fix my color balancing, but I'll figure that out. So yeah, don't forget tomorrow if you want to join us at 8:30 a.m. Eastern. You don't have to show up at 8:30. You can show up at 9:30, 12:30, 11:36 for all I care. It's just whenever you want to come in, when you want to leave, it's however you want to do it. It is just time for y'all to sew together, and I just happen to be there. That's the way I like to call it. Link, like I said, is down in the description. Anybody who's on my mailing list, they got the link this past week. And before I go anywhere today, meaning lunch, I need to get it scheduled so that you guys get a reminder email this afternoon that says, here's the link in case you can't find it from last week's email, because you get 6,000 emails a day like I do at work. And then Wednesday is going to be weekly vlog. And next Saturday, hopefully I'm doing some star block units, because that is the next thing that will have to be done, because I will have all the 9 patches done, which probably means sometime during this week I'm going to spend sewing the accent strip tubes, which was not shown on camera, and through the magic of YouTube will probably not be shown on camera. So hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Hope to see you guys tomorrow. Toodles!